All right, everybody, it's Dakota Prairie 5:15 time, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I've actually, Terry is going to just do a moment of silence for us, and so I just asked her to do that before we get going with an approval of the agenda.
I just think, given everything that's happened today in Nashville, it would just be a good way to start tonight by taking a moment of silence as we remember the families who have been impacted in such a grave way today with the loss of life. Thank you.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Wes.
I second that motion.
Seconded by Deb. All right, Brian, we're ready for that vote. Thank you. Motion passes. I'll go ahead and read the mission statement tonight. The Brookings School District prepares all learners to be confident, engaged citizens empowered to impact the ever-changing and interconnected world. Now is the time for our conflict of interest declarations.
We have none to present this evening.
Thank you. All right. I'm on the right page. This is an opportunity to receive comments from members of the audience, and this is concerning issues that are not on the agenda. Per the policy, the presentation should be as brief as possible. Unless an extension of time is granted, a speaker will be limited to 5 minutes. Thank you. All right, Jeanette Gibbons. Just remember the green button. I think you got it, though.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And I may need a couple extra minutes, but I'm going to move quickly. Picking up where we left off last week, had a few days to do a little more research work, and I probably came up with more questions than final resolved where I stand on everything yet. So I printed off a copy of the schedule probably last fall so I could help keep track of when the school board meetings are. And on the list was March 13th, and that was the only meeting listed as a regular business meeting for the 13th. And then at the school board meeting that occurred on the 13th, a motion was made by Wes and seconded, I believe, by Kelly, to have a special meeting on the 27th. 13th to the 27th, but then something happened because another special meeting was made and announced on the 21st. Now we're all in the dark out here, and we're kind of feeling like we're not having a close working relationship with our school board. And yet, as I look at the organization chart, the stakeholders are at the top, of which the voters would be in that category. And then we have the school board, and then we have the superintendent. So when matters are taken into the school board's hands to deal with our superintendent without consulting or at least presenting information openly to us, we have a right to ask questions of what is exactly going on. And that was addressed last week as well. So I did find out, I went to the school administrative office this morning and got a couple papers. I asked for the announcement of the press release of the special meeting that was held last Wednesday. And so I got a copy of the email that was sent out to the Brookings Register, Kelly Pitts, Perry Miller with the radio, and Pat Powers of the War College blog. Now, okay, I would like my name added to that list, please, so that I find out about these special meetings. Pat Powers is a political blog site. And he was definitely fanning the flames last week, as well as Dakota News, I think it was Kelloland, all of these stories that I saw last week, and I don't watch much news. The stories came out with Willard is resigning, and oh, by the way, Brookings is on probation. And Pat Powers ran with a blog saying, oh, they're going to lose their state funding. Well, you know how upset people would be about that. So again, it was half-truths, because it is not true that we were going to lose our funding. I talked directly on the phone to Secretary of State of Education. He called me back. I'd called 2 or 3 times, hadn't gotten a response back. I said, I'm going to the meeting, I need some info here. He called me back. He told me there were no showstoppers in our accreditation process. Everything would be cleared up. Nothing big there. So here's these stories that are running out in the media and in the blog, which comes up as a direct hit pretty quickly in the hits when you look for Brookings School District. And that's the information that the public has, thinking Dr. Willard has really dropped the ball here, taking care of the accreditation in our school. And none of those were showstoppers. As Dr. Willard explains in his own words, and he stated at the meeting last time that he had a separate statement, which I also got a hard copy of this morning at the district office. And the closing paragraph by Dr. Willard. The State Department of Education has noted the district must submit a plan of action to correct the areas of noncompliance by March 31. Not only will a plan be submitted, but I have confidence each of the 4 noncompliance areas to be corrected will be completed by the responsible parties on or before March 31, 2023, securing the Brookings School District accreditation. The accreditation is going to be okay, folks. And of those 4 items, actually one of them had already been cleared by that time. It had already been fulfilled. So then we had the meeting on the 22nd, and an article came out in the Brookings Register. Again, Willard is resigning, and on the second page, search firm already hired. Boy, we don't waste any time. And again, the public is totally in the dark. So this search firm that's already hired, they would post the job by Thursday. Well, then obviously there's been some grunt work done before the meeting on Wednesday for them to be able to post on Thursday. And we're all asking why. So I also take a look at this consulting company that's going to do this work for me. I have no idea what they're charging us, but I did find an article that this consulting firm did the work for Sioux Valley to hire a superintendent. So the consulting company is run by Rick Melmer and Tom Oster, both former State of Education secretaries appointed by Mike Rounds. And these two worked together, and they actually did a search to replace Tom Oster, who was a superintendent, and he was part of the consulting firm that was going to do the search to replace himself. Wasn't he already being paid for his work as a superintendent to help find a replacement? You know, people are asking. I've requested a couple extra minutes, please.
No, thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. Thank
I will
you.
encourage people to contact me because I have boatloads of information. There are many dots that are being connected, not just school board matters, election matters, COVID matters. This is not done by a long shot.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeanette. Gavin? Retzer, right? Retzer. Thank you. I just use the green button
I
and
think it's
introduce
on, yeah,
yourself.
I think we-
Great. Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you for your time. Piggybacking, I think, on what Jeanette addressed. I would have liked to have done it earlier, but I did send you all an email with this exact content, so nothing to spring on you. But I think for the sake of the public, I think that I wanted to read these things. I think that without being too bold, perhaps it summarizes the concerns that several people are having. So if I may read. Just quickly as a reminder, an excerpt from the Brookings Register version of Dr. Willard's resignation statement, briefly. A quote, Willard signed up to speak during the comments from the audience portion of the meeting last Wednesday, and read a prepared letter of resignation which began, "It is with apprehension that I submit my resignation as the Brookings School District Superintendent of Schools While this resignation is unconventional, he continued, it is what is deemed concurrent with current school board members' goals for the district, end quote. And then I just have three questions that I think are very broad and general, but perhaps, again, summarize concerns people have. Number one, for you, school board members, it seems reasonably clear that Dr. Willert did not wish to resign based on his statement and on his demeanor at last Wednesday's meeting. If he was pressured or felt pressured to resign, why is that and how? Number two, Dr. Willert stated that his resignation was, quote unquote, deemed by someone to be, quote, concurrent with current school board members' goals for the district, end quote. The someone seemed clearly to be you, the present school board members. So what are your goals for the Brookings School District, particularly relating to differences with Dr. Willert's goals for the Brookings School District, differences significant enough that it's come to this? Number three, in what ways will Brookings parents and other concerned citizens, stakeholders, be invited to participate in the interview of and selection process for the new superintendent? Specifically, will there be an open forum at which we are invited to ask specific questions of the candidates or candidate with the expectation that we will get direct answers? And all of this then just in light of your stated goals as a school board for the 2022-2023 school year, which can be read on your webpage, particularly the first two, which read this way. The Brookings School District Board of Education will communicate effectively with all stakeholders. I assume that includes me and everyone here and listening. And two, the Brookings School District Board of Education will strengthen relationships with all stakeholders. So in light of all this, I look forward to your answers and statements and explanations this evening or in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. Kevin King? Hi, Kevin.
All right.
Got the green light memo, I
Green
think.
light is on.
Okay.
Sibilance.
Thank you.
All right. I guess I had no plans originally of coming in or talking or anything, but as I know you're aware, there's a Facebook page that was started for concerned parents. And over the last 4 or 5 days, we've had 1,100% increase in people requesting to belong to it. So I felt since these people are concerned and they were getting their questions answered, I would probably come and try and talk to you. I guess my first question, which is reiterated by everybody else there, is I understand Robert's Rule of Order and everything else, and that we technically can't ask questions unless you guys can. Will you guys be answering these questions today? Will you guys answer these questions today?
We're not prepared to respond in public comment today, but yeah, we will have your open forum for that comment.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what
So
I
you
needed
have
to
your
know first.
time, Kevin, yep.
So that's, I guess, basically my main question then at that point in time would be whether Dr. Willert's resignation was his choice, because the apprehension, as everybody has mentioned, has raised questions, and as has the deemed goals. So I'm curious as to where this come from, because curious if this is some sort of constructive discharge type of a situation. And then back to, as we've discussed, well aware that this is a republic, not a democracy, that you're a forum and that you're a group. I just want to remind everybody that that's how this stuff works, is that we vote you guys in and you guys represent us, but it is a representing of the children and our business interests, and it's not a mandate to do any kind of goals that does not represent the people. Because as I'm sure you're all aware of, that you're all voted by a plurality of the voters, not a majority of the voters. So we want to remind everybody that we represent the whole group, not just the people that voted for you. Everybody has their kids in there, and so we need to remind them that. So, and then my other question, which will or may not, is the Brookings School Board, they do not have a home rule order, do they? So that was the other thing. Our city council had that 20 years ago, and everybody here has been here long enough to remember how that worked out. So I guess that was my question, so whatever point in time we can actually get these questions answered, that'd be great.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, Susan Struy.
Seems like everybody's
Hi, Susan.
concerned about the same thing.
Yep.
So I'm starting out, what happened last week was appalling, I thought. Many do not feel that it was right thing to do. And so we all know that he really didn't want to resign. I mean, that was plain as the look on his face. I've asked the question before about truth, and no one seems to be able to find it. Actually, it's right under your nose, but no one is allowed to reveal it. All the way up to our resident in D.C., truth cannot be found there either. We're all living in and among lies. Truth is Jesus Christ. There I have said it. His followers know the truth, and I know the truth, and I hate lies. If the foundation of evil, did you know that the light of truth cannot be hidden? It shuts out the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it, no matter how hard it tries. Evil, lies, deception, and darkness, it's all the same. Even social media, the news, will take the truth, twist the words to meet their agenda. What's your agenda? Everybody has one. Is it okay for your children to lie to you and let teachers say it's okay to keep secrets from mom and dad? Our children continue to be indoctrinated with gender, using pronouns for reference to people. Do they get to call you a pronoun? We all have names. We were all created to be what we are. You may be able to change your physical body, but you still have what you were born with to be. And we all have that DNA, and you can't change it. If you're born a girl, you're a girl the rest of your life, no matter if you want to look like a boy. There are and will always, excuse me, what everything boils down to, basically, is deception. And the children whom you refer to as learners, what is that? They are and will always be students. Everyone learns, hence they are students, including you. We are all students who continue to learn through life till we leave this place. We're all on a journey just passing through. This place is not my home. Where is yours? Jesus remains and is still the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Kevin Grunewald? Sorry if I said that wrong, Kevin.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Grunewald. I wanted to stand here to voice a few concerns in regards to a few issues that have come to my attention. Number one, my real estate taxes have gone up. Shocker. Right? Well, it is and should be. Not just a little, but 20% on one location and 24% on another. The average is 19% in Brookings alone. Not just the tax rate, but the marketable value of my real estate rose, which in turn gives the city more money to spend without raising an eyebrow. We have a great town, but lately, we've not been working together to spend it wisely. More so depending on yes committees for spending our tax dollars. Why bring up our taxes? Well, when 49% pays for our schools, I can't help but notice a rather large jump on property values for a building 13 years old, and we're not talking about 6th and 22nd area. I didn't look at my letter from the city until it was too late to appeal the assessment. I asked how many people showed up to the appeals, and it was none, which tells me either people didn't read their assessment or don't think about their future in our community and expect that the people on these committees to have great decisions on our behalf with our tax dollars. But when I see a committee like this one I'm standing before today, implementing a resignation such as Dr. Willard's, you have my attention. I ask why. I am aware of numerous practices such as this when our new city manager started out here, and how many people resigned mysteriously. in our city. They resigned to keep quiet and keep their severance. Hush money, you'd say. With all of this secrecy, this seems about the same. I question why. When the school is still in session, if it is because of the accreditation, it seems petty. If it is because of poor performance in his job, don't we have reviews just for this reason? And if he is not performing, then his salary should reflect it, remaining the same or lowered. But instead, he is resigning. We are hiring a search firm to race to get a candidate. This candidate may cost us more, and the time to adjust may cost us, not to mention the cost of the severance package. To me, that doesn't sound like a good transfer of leadership of our schools. Finally, if we have two buildings that need renovating at the same time, why do we not plan to just build one? For now, with the size to accommodate two school districts, with a future plan to build another one in the future. As there are a lot of factors that come into planning for construction projects, coming from a man that remodels for a living, remodeling costs twice as much, takes 3 times as long, and even at the best of conditions creates a lot of unnecessary stress for the community, which all can be avoided with planning. Because we have the land, we're not forced to renovate. Planning for 2 perfect school projects back to back with very little air factors seems a little risky, especially when our economy is not the best, and we cannot forecast the weather years out or the labor forces at that time, not to mention the cost of materials. The Mickelson School was a prime example of remodeling. Everything looks great on paper and in theory, but it's not always rainbows and butterflies like you are projecting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kevin. Great. We have an executive session scheduled for tonight. And then we will have action items and as well as communication and action items after the executive session this evening. So I'm looking for a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2 subsection 1 personnel and subsection 3 legal counsel on contractual matters and also subsection 4 negotiations.
So moved.
Right, moved by Teresa. Second by Wes. Right, Brian. All right. Sorry, Terry's not. Motion will pass. All right, motion passes. We are now entered into executive session. We'll let you know when we can come back in. All right, we are out of executive session. Moving on to action item number 7.1. I'm looking for a motion of approval for our release of all claims and settlement agreement.
I move the approval of release of all claims and settlement agreements with the attachments that was dated March 21 of 2023.
Moved by Teresa,
Second.
seconded by Terry. Discussion. All right, Brian, we're ready for that vote. Sorry, I don't have anything. Good. Sorry, sometimes our computers get mad if you don't touch it for an extended period. I don't know. I got click happy. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. I didn't have a voting button, Brian. Okay. Brian, do you just want to do a voice vote for us? Okay. Okay. Do I just start over? No, it's already going. Sorry, Jason. Okay, there we go. Thank you. All right, the motion passes. Just so everyone knows that that will be available to the public tomorrow morning around 10 a.m. at the district office. And so people can get that there. We haven't made copies. We have one agreement. So they'll be available tomorrow at the district office. Okay. Is it more, Rich? Do you want to comment on that at all? Okay. What? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to our communication items, discussion items. 8.1 is the Brookings School District State Accreditation status, and Dr. Willer is going to address and speak on this.
Yeah, board members, you'll see attached, per what was communicated earlier, that we are required to have a plan of action submitted and dated to the Department of Education no later than March 31st. What you see attached is the Accreditation Deficiency Action Plan. And it is going to be submitted tomorrow morning uploaded to the accreditation website. It'll equally be submitted to Dr. Joe Graves via electronic mail, and we will be sending it as well via certified mail, delivery confirmation, return receipt. As you look at the 4 deficiency items that were listed, school improvement plan as an action item later on this evening at by the board. And I honestly want to thank extensively both Michelle Vandeweerd and Tana Stadler for what they've done to help move this process forward. They've done an incredible job, and I can't say enough about their work in helping get these things all taken care of and dotting I's and crossing T's. The teacher evaluation, as you note, that resolution occurred. There was an email confirming that on March 13th. The principal evaluation authorization, we've been through the first reading on March 13th, tonight, second reading and adoption of that policy. And then finally, the certification. And this one, quite frankly, has been challenging, not necessarily on our end, but because the certification system was down at the state level as we were going through the accreditation process. We do have confirmation from Dr. Graves stating as much, and while the certification system is up by the state's own admission, there are still some details that aren't working quite the way that they should yet, and so we're working through those. So we will have attachments to the plan, as you see, noting agendas, noting minutes, noting as well the actions that we have all taken relative to resolve those, again, minor deficiencies that we've talked about previously. So just a quick update for everybody on the board.
Questions from board members?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment, and this is just on behalf of myself, but my perspective as a board member. The accreditation process is every 5 years, and so really the majority of our board has never been through this process. And in spite of that, it was never explained to us. We never heard about what the accreditation process entailed. It was never mentioned in any of the superintendent board reports that we were going through accreditation this year. In January, we got a brief update from one of our curriculum directors that they had met with the accreditation team, both the curriculum directors and Dr. Willard, on December 6th, and they went over the findings and that there were a few things that needed to be changed and that they were to submit those changes by March 6th. And then I didn't hear anything else until earlier this month when we got the letter that said if we didn't get things done by March 31st, we'd be on probation. And so the most unfortunate thing, and what I regret the most about this, is how our community found out about it. This failure of communication to the board led that our community found out about it through a sensationalized press release online. And that was wrong. And I apologize that due to our lack of communication within the board, that our community had to go through that. And so I am pleased that now everything should be in line and that we can be in good standing again with the State Board of Education.
Thank you. On Friday, I did call Secretary Graves just to touch base, and just the letter was addressed to me, so obviously wanted to be able to respond to him and touch base. And he did share that until a board is on this place of accreditation, a board isn't informed from the State Board of Education. So that would have been our first, the official letter to the board was on that March 10th meeting. Secretary Graves also did share that we are moving forward and that everything that we've laid out tonight is correct, and that once all those items are uploaded and taken care of, that probation status will be removed immediately. You know, as soon as they can get the pieces in place from the website, that will be taken down. And yeah, we're very proud of Brookings, and so yes, we want that taken care of. So, additional questions or comments on accreditation status from the board? All right, we are moving on to 8.2, and that's the second reading of the revisions being made to policy AFC, administrator evaluation. And I don't know if the policy committee is going to comment on why we're doing this evening as well.
Yes, this also came up because the requirements for the accreditation needed this policy reviewed. And we did review it, and I've been told that what we have submitted now is adequate to meet the requirements for accreditation. And actually, most of it comes from the state accreditation website of how they'd like to have their outline of how to evaluate the principals and assistant principals.
All right, so that acts as our second reading of those revisions, and there's an action item on that following. All right, number 8.3 is the last day of school discussion, which I know people are interested in with this snowy winter we've had. And so I will let Dr. Willard start that recommendation from his administration team on that.
Yeah, the administrative team was able to meet and discuss this thoroughly, and in doing so, weighed many different variables, from the suggestion about assessment results and impact on student learning, weighing impact on learners and families, impacting staff and whatnot. And you'll see, board members, the attached instructional minutes. And those are, as we've talked before in previous communications, which we try to do extensively at the board table, those things that are minimums. And obviously, the minimums aren't what we're striving for. We want to maximize instructional time for our learners. As you see, we are exceeding the minimum instructional dates. And I'm not going to go through that ad nauseum because we've done that before at the board table, so you see that attachment. Ultimately, what came out of the recommendation that you see attached from the administrative team is that the last day of school would be on the 26th, and then we would have staff return a couple of days following, and we would conclude accordingly with staff having flexibility to ensure fulfillment of the contractual agreement that we have through the master agreement that we've negotiated with the staff, that those would be made up through an MOU as flex days, working collectively with the building administrators, much like we did in the 2018-2019 school year when we experienced a significant number of snow days as well. And that process worked well. That has been shared with the Brookings Education Association, and there were some suggestions made to that and have been addressed. And again, this is the recommendation that is proposed. So again, the last day of school for students would be May 26th.
Questions, comments from the board members?
I don't have a question, but I do want parents to be aware that we have always had additional minutes planned into the day that go beyond the requirements. So I've had some concerns about, do we need to add additional minutes? We really don't. We plan for that in our calendar from the beginning. So there's always been additional minutes included. So if we wouldn't have had any snow days, we would have been going plenty long beyond what we're expected to do. So just to be aware of that we're beyond the requirements.
I would just add that I really would like to see us look into e-learning days for some of these snow days. At least then something might be accomplished when the children are home. And I agree, we should have as many minutes as possible. And if on those snow days, maybe the first couple of the year are e-learning days, and they don't have to be the teachers on the camera with the kids, but sending out some sort of assignments. I believe our 6th through 12th grade have a one-to-one lease for a laptop. And the predictability of the weather forecast now, that you can get something loaded on there for them to work on while they're home. I just think it's something we need to look into with the way our weather is going to extremes. And I think, I'm not saying we have to do it, but I would like to see us look into something like that to cover snow days for our district.
I'll just briefly comment that has been explored already and starting to look at some options and alternatives. I know one of the things that we've talked about at this board table before is the concern about equity for access, and that's a real concern. I also think we have to be mindful of the burden that might place on staff going forward, because a snow day might be made, a call might be made at 4 o'clock in the morning, and what that might do to staff in terms of preparing for that snow day or that day. Equally, there's not the assurances that all learners are going to complete the work, and so it could add another burden onto our staff. So those are all things that we've talked about, considerations that have been made and will continue to be made by the administrative team.
All right, moving on to our action items tonight. Action item 9.1 is an approval of a school improvement plan. We'll motion, and then Dr. Willard, this one as well.
I
I'm looking,
move to approve the school improvement plan.
I'll second that. Discussion items on that.
Just real quickly, one of the things that was noted in our documentation, and going back to what was referred to earlier, in our last accreditation process for school improvement, we had submitted our current strategic plan. And this time around, there was some different people going through the process, and what they noted in our plan is we did not have it articulated how we would address waivers. We have, for example, waivers in place for learners that may access algebra, as an example, at a younger age than what's allowed for through the administrative rules of South Dakota. So this just recognizes how we handle those waivers and the annual review of waivers that will occur through the process. You can see on page 15, we have a notation made of that in the attached document. And I will share that this has been communicated with the Accreditation Office, and as you note in the summary of the action item, board members, the Accreditation Office has verified that this added language will allow the district to be in compliance with this portion of the accreditation process.
Additional questions? All right, Brian, we're ready for that vote. Log out, log back in, Jason says. What? I know. It'll just take us a minute. Jason, you said you updated us. I'm just teasing you. Okay, 2-click happy up here. It's my fault. All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to 9.2, approval of revisions made to policy AFC, administrator evaluation. I'm looking for a motion of approval.
I move approval.
And moved by Deb and, sorry. Okay, moved by Deb and seconded by Wes.
And I
Comments
think,
on this or questions?
Teresa already explained, we reviewed this policy. It was up for comment from the board after our first reading, but it does follow the guidelines that have been by the Associated School Boards, and it's ready to go.
Great, thank you, Deb. All right, Brian, we're ready for the vote. Touching anything? All right, motion passes for the administrator evaluation policy. All right, following on that last day of school discussion, I'm looking for a motion of approval of the 2022-2023 calendar modification.
I'll move, and I will be cautious about the inflection on your voice, that it wasn't a motion. Ask for motion.
Thank you.
I so move.
Okay, moved by Wes, seconded by Terry. Discussion. Okay, we're ready for the vote, Brian. I promise I didn't even touch anything, Jason. Sorry, everyone, about this computer system. Okay. Sorry, everyone. Brian, we're happy to do a voice vote. And we're on the calendar modification. Someone should start an electronic school
I'll just go
board
down the
business.
list, sorry. Binkley,
Aye.
Debates,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Books.
Aye,
Cheddar. All yes.
thank you. I try to move on, or? I'm just going to verbally move us on to an approval of memorandum of understanding between the Brookings School District and the Brookings Education Association. This is in regards to staff makeup days for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Teresa, Brian, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? My only item is I know that the BEA leadership has seen this document and that they're in agreement of this document and has been shared with them in a couple modifications.
I just like the flexibility that it offers our staff because they do so much in the summer in terms of their own personal professional development. So I like the fact that this gives that flexibility to the teachers.
Okay. All right, Brian, we're ready for a voice vote again.
The website's having issues. Binkley.
Aye.
Debates. Johnson.
Aye.
Books.
Aye.
Cheddar. All yes.
All right, moving on to action item 9.5. We have approval of a 3% dental insurance and a 9% health insurance increase.
I move approval of the 3% dental insurance and 9% health insurance increase.
Second.
Moved by Deb and seconded by Terry.
Terry and I are on the insurance committee, and we met with the delegate from our insurance group. I was a little concerned, we're gonna get 7% raise and then salary, and then we get a 9% raise in insurance. However, insurance rates are going up, costs of healthcare are going up, and it was explained to us that if we don't do a little bit each year, we could be caught in some year where we're gonna do a big increase, like 12 or 15%. So from that perspective, I was much more comfortable with the 9% health insurance raise. And then it was 3% for dental, which is pretty minimal when you look at the total cost of what, or the cost of what our dental plan is. And so after our discussion, we believe that's the appropriate thing to do is to approve this. I do want to point out to staff that, you know, we've had insurance holidays with our self-insurance policy pretty much every year since I've been on the board, but we cannot guarantee that. We just have to keep reminding ourselves of that, because if it gets to the point where our reserves are too low, and right now he said we're stable with that, we'll have to not be able to do that. So just a reminder to the teachers and staff that it's not a guarantee that you'll have an insurance holiday, even though it's really nice when you do.
I think just to piggyback on that, the 9% was a shocker, but to keep in mind with the 7% pay increase, there might be some years where we won't get any pay increase and our insurance could go sky high. So that kind of helped balance out a little bit.
Would you like to try again or do a voice vote? I did get logged back in. All right. I think we've made a motion in a second. Okay. Brian, I think we're ready for a voice vote if you're okay with that.
Binkley.
Aye.
Debates. Johnson.
Aye.
Books.
Aye.
Cheddar. All yes.
All right, and now I'm looking for a motion of approval to increase employee offered life insurance amount to be determined by the Board of Ed. I think in your notes, if you reviewed them ahead of time, I can't pull that up right now, but Wes might be able to give a little bit more information on this once we have a motion in a second, Wes.
Do we motion when we don't know the amount?
Well,
Should the motion be for?
We can wait, I mean, let's make a motion, discuss, and then we can bring that back off the table if we need to.
Or do a friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment.
I move approval of the increase in employee offered life insurance with the amount to be determined.
I'll second that. discussion.
Yep, go ahead, Wes.
We brought this up in our finance committee, in terms of what the costs might be, and so we're still working on the costs and what the implications might be across against the 7%. And certainly, figure it out financially, we're gonna get this done. And
I've seen it.
this is the arithmetic of it. And so let's, I think, prove the motion, but we'll get to a specific number through the coming board.
On the second, sorry, Wes, I didn't mean to interrupt, but on the second page, the amounts to, we currently have $15,000 in life insurance, costs about $18 a year. To jump it to $20,000 for all employees is about $2,900. To go to $25,000 is about $5,800, it's a little less than that. And I think the recommendation would be to increase our insurance, life insurance to $25,000 in the amount of $5,773 as an estimated cost increase per year.
This is consistent with the rough numbers we had here.
Yep,
It was presented through the insurance committee as well.
okay.
All the question.
So are we considering
Oh.
amending it to 25,000 or just,
Yeah, I would be
At this point.
fine with that friendly amendment if people would like to make that. I think that gives our employees a better package for life insurance than a $15,000 package. I would like to increase that benefit for our employees
Deb and Wes are okay with that?
yeah, I made the motion, so I will
for the
a
25.
friendly amendment that it would be, the amount would be 25,000, to increase it to $25,000 if Wes is willing to agree to that.
A friendly amendment, okay. All right. Brian, we're ready for another voice vote.
Binkley,
Aye.
Debates,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Books,
Aye.
Cheddar.
All right.
All yes.
All right, I'm glad to add that. Okay. Brian, do you have printouts of these items, GMP items?
I do not.
Okay.
That came, it's
I know
coming up.
Pierce is here.
It
I
came up
don't-
on mine.
Oh, it came,
Okay.
sorry, Pierce, we're having a lot of technical issues on the computer, so might have to have you. Our next two items are some approving a guaranteed maximum price for Maderi and Hillcrest Elementary. We've done that a couple times with some sub-GMPs. This year, we've done it 2 other times already. This would be our final time, through a lot of work with the Facilities and Finance Committee to work through those guaranteed maximum price. Pierce is here with Hausman Clerk Drew. Pierce, I might just have you come on up if that's okay, and walk through some of these documents with our team. I know we've had them for review for quite some time.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep, so this is the final GMP for separate documents, one for Maderi Elementary and one for Hillcrest. As Kelly had said, we've been through the sub-GMP process to ultimately keep us in line with the timeline we need to start construction, which if Mother Nature
Could use some snow
yeah,
to go
yeah,
away,
would,
but yeah.
work with us, so hopefully breaking ground here in the next couple of weeks. But this will be the final guaranteed maximum price for both schools. Ultimately, we'll turn around and bid these schools right away to kind of keep us on the timeline. And ultimately, that's what the GMP is, to protect the school district. And ultimately, Hausman Construction and Clark Drew are liable for the bids at that point. So, yeah, we're super excited to get going, really eager, really anxious. And I will say it's been a really good process and really good feedback, I think, from the construction side to the building committee side and the school district. So it's been a lot of hard work with the design team and the building committee, that core committee, and all the input from the staff at the Brookings School District. So we're, like I said, really anxious, really eager, and hope to get going here. So with that, I'd ask for approval on both GMPs.
I don't know if someone wants to just reiterate that this is the most we'd have to pay, and if it goes over, that's
Wanna
under-
explain
but if it
maybe
goes-
GMP?
But if it
Yep.
goes under,
Yeah.
that comes back to us.
That's right. It's a really thorough process that we go through, but ultimately the school district gets the benefit of that, and that's the great thing. There's really a couple advantages to that going the construction manager at risk path that we've done, And that's that the school district gets the benefit. Ultimately, we bid the work out, and any underage we have from the guaranteed maximum price would go back to the school district, and hopefully can use that to benefit some upgrades to facilities and things like that through the process. So yeah, it's, and in addition to that, I mean, we've been on board since your bond passed, basically last June, and we've had ample time to really plan for the projects. I mean, that's the really big advantage, because we've got the subcontractors signed up, a lot of our local market partners here that are ready to go. So that's right, Teresa, yeah.
And Pierce, I think one more important point to clarify, construction costs versus project costs.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing as we talk about the total.
Yeah, so construction cost is ultimately the guaranteed maximum price, or the contracts to Hausman and Clark Drew, our joint venture agreement. And that's really the subcontracted work from the electrician to the earthwork contractors, the guy putting in utilities. We're really, our contract is only for those costs. And then there's total project cost to, as Dr. Willard alluded to, where you've got architecture fees, you've got geotechnical reports, you've got site surveys, and a lot of those things that go into that. So there is, you're writing a contract to Hausman and Clark Drew ultimately for construction costs, and then outside of that, there's total project costs that'll really, that's the umbrella of everything, so.
And I should, the cost, that'll be part of the motion, the Madera Elementary, I wrote it down, but just make sure I'm right. $33,134,855. Hillcrest, the next motion, $31,847,551.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Pierce.
Yep.
Sorry, I think I'm.
And my computer's working now if you want to try the
I'm
motions.
trying, yep. Still can't get back to Maderi. Same thing, you can't get back to Maderi?
And just do voice.
I'm sorry, everyone, yeah. Okay. I'm looking for a motion to establish the final GMP, guarantee maximum price for Maderi Elementary construction project.
I move approval as proposed for this is the Hillcrest one.
We're on Maderi first.
Maderi.
Sorry, Maderi first. It's
I'm ahead of the game here.
the computer is not working,
Yeah.
Wes, sorry, we're just doing voice vote.
I'm gonna go back one here, okay.
I'll second that, Wes.
Okay, so moved by Wes, seconded by Deb. And we have all that information available too, as well. Brian, I think we're ready for a voice vote.
Binkley? Debates?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Books?
Aye.
Cheddar? Oh, yes.
All right. Thanks, Pierce. A similar sort of, you can stay.
Okay.
Hang out. You have 2 schools to do for us here.
I'm on the hot seat.
All right. All right. And now looking for a motion to establish the final guaranteed maximum price for Hillcrest Elementary construction project.
I'll make the motion now correctly.
For Hillcrest? Okay, sounds good.
Second.
All right. Wes motions for Hillcrest and seconded by Terry. Brian, do you want to read those numbers again?
Yes, Madera was $33,134,855. Hillcrest is $31,847,551. And I also wanted to let you know, I did run this through the contract through legal counsel.
Thank you. All right, Brian, we're ready for a voice vote.
Binkley? Debates?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Books?
Aye.
Cheddar?
Aye.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Thanks for all your work, Pierce. It's just
Thank
been
you.
an awesome
Thank you, Pierce.
process.
Very good work.
And just a note, there are 2 community meetings regarding the Hillcrest and the Maderi projects coming up this week. I should have them in front of me. Wednesday is the Maderi project at 6 o'clock, and then Thursday is the Hillcrest project at 6. And so our Hausman Clark Drew will be there to answer questions about construction and timing and fences going up and where to drop off and pick up and all those types of things. It will really be kind of a construction-focused meeting, not as much of a design focused meeting, but construction process focused meeting. So we'll be seeing those fences going up pretty soon. It's pretty exciting, so thank you for that. They're at the schools. Medary's is at Medary and in the gymnasiums. Same as we did the bond meetings in those locations. And you'll see some signage go up outside of those schools. You should see it on our, at the scrolling screen by the high school. It should be in the paper and a couple of other those things. Got it out on our email, so. Thank you,
Madam
everyone.
Chairman, may I make an announcement?
Sure.
I'm on the Mental Health Coalition, and April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And I wanted to mention that tonight because April 1st is this Saturday, and that's prior to our next meeting. And one of the things there's several different events going on. They're all available on the United Way calendar, but they're asking that everyone on April 4th, which is our day to meet with the negotiations with the BEA, that you wear blue to support Child Abuse Prevention Month. And living in Brookings, I know we all have some blue in our wardrobe. So wear blue on Tuesday to support the Child Abuse Prevention Month. And then later in the month, April 19th, I believe, is a day to support children of military families, children of military families. And that day you are to wear purple. So in the schools and in the community, it'd be great to see support for that.
Thank you, Deb. All right, I'm looking for a motion of adjournment.
I move adjournment of this meeting.
All right, moved by Teresa. I will second that. Brian, we're ready for a voice vote.
Binkley, Debates, Johnson.
Aye.
Books.
Aye.
Cheddar. Oh, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
So give it to
If you could leave your computers as they are, he's going to troubleshoot them. Of course, I shut mine down already, so.